2022 European long distance champion representing Team GB and a Guinness World Record holder for something that absolutely blew my mind.
I was very nervous. I think maybe I've bitten off too much. I've bitten more than I can chew. I think definitely, am I going to make it? Pain didn't get any worse. It was kind of just a change in chip and just managing this kind of pain and just keep going. You can deal with this pain. It's not an issue. It's not going to be forever.
This week's physical specimen, Charlotte Sullivan.
Bit of background: Charlotte lives in Madrid, and we both belong to the same triathlon club. So if you hear any references to that, that's what we're talking about.
Charlotte, so exciting to have you on the episode this week. How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you, Harry?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, I've developed a bit of a sniffle, actually.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I went out with the Tetouan boys. Shout out Tetouan Tri Club.
Yes.
Tetouan boys yesterday, and I discovered I'd had left my winter jersey in the wash.
Oh dear.
And so I came out with a cunning plan, and I put on a long sleeve running top and then a summer jersey over the top. And cunningly sandwiched in between the tops, I put a plastic bag, which I thought was going to be quite a good little windstopper idea.
Yeah, not quite the case.
It got really cold.
Got cold and very sweat. Yeah.
Exactly. 5 degrees it's not an ideal solution.
Not ideal, no.
So yes. So very lucky to have you on the podcast this week, Charlotte. You are the 2022 European long distance champion representing Team GB.
Yes.
Big one. And a Guinness World Record holder for something that absolutely blew my mind. And we will get on to later as exactly how that came about and frankly how you survived.
Yeah.
But before we get into that and speaking more about your achievements to date, it would be really interesting to understand your kind of context in your early years that went on to kind of shaping who you are today, and how that led you to achieve what you have so far.
Yeah, I grew up in a tiny little town in the southwest of England, in Devon, and I think I was about 6 years old when I started the whole sport, getting into sport and in the sport world. And since then, I haven't really stopped playing a sport of some sort, really. My mum decided to take me to the only club that there was in our little town, which was baton twirling. I'm not sure if everyone's heard of what that is. Yeah, you just fling a bit of metal around in the air. It's got 2 rubber ends on the end of the stick, basically. Yeah, definitely. You kind of end up getting a few bruises if you lob it up in the air and you don't quite catch it correctly. So that's basically what I did until I was about 12 years old. Doing all the competitions at the weekend in the county, and I did end up going to the nationals at one stage, and the British nationals, and I did end up winning. I think I must have been about 8 at the time, or 9 years old. I don't really remember it much, but I do have the sash still. And I don't really know how or why I've kind of kept into sport, but it's just kind of been my thing really ever since I was little, and I don't really remember life without a sport in it in any way whatsoever. I was very lucky to have parents that let me go to all these clubs and change sports when I fancied changing sport because there was a new club in the town, or a friend was doing a different sport of some sort. So yeah, that's how it all kind of began, really.
Amazing. So there's quite a big jump going from baton spinning to long distance triathlon. And just to clarify, long distance triathlon, for those who perhaps are unaware as to what that involves, this has become pretty famous by the Ironman organization, who have they seem to do the best kind of marketing. But there's many other organizations, and it is a discipline in its own right. So we're talking about 3.8 kilometers swim, followed by 180k bike ride, followed by a marathon, so 42k. So as you can appreciate,
That's quite a jump in sports, yeah. And that's
it is
without
a
mentioning,
bit.
yeah, I mean, I've been through it all. I've done taekwondo, grass hoppy, you know, I've done it all. How I got into long distance triathlon was actually through marathons, funny enough.
Okay.
You know, marathons and Tituan Triathlon Club. So I'd been, you know, entering the London Marathon ballot since I was old enough to be able to enter the ballot, which I think you've got to be 18, haven't you? And it was kind of on my mum and my bucket list, just do the London Marathon and, you know, tick it off the list, just do one, say we've done it, got the t-shirt, and that's it, end of, you know, move on.
Yeah.
And I started running mainly when I was at uni. Actually, when I started at uni, it was kind of a bit complicated to go to a club sport. I was working part-time at the same time and study and, you know, keep meeting up with your friends and stuff. So I just started going around running, really, because you could just fit it in whenever you wanted. And it's kind of something you can do on your own. You can do it with people, but you can also just pop out whenever you want, you know, and have a cheeky run. And we obviously didn't get into the ballot like many people, and that's when we kind of, it's tricky, very tricky. And that's when we decided to do the Leicester Marathon, because that's what I was studying at the time. And so that's how I got into kind of the long distance as such. That was my first one. My mum did it. She managed to get round with me. I think she actually finished stronger than I did. Absolute machine. Yeah. And she said, that's it, I'm not doing any more ever in my life. And I was like, I've got the bug, I need to do more. And the rest is history. Then I kind of left all the team sports and all the other random sports, and started running. I did the Valencia Marathon here in Spain, about 2018, I think it was, maybe 2017. And I was really aiming for 3 hours 45 to be able to get my good for age time bib in the London Marathon. The whole thing was to do with London all the time. And I did 3:46. And that was when I realized, yeah, I was pretty gutted. Happy to have finished, but at the same time gutted by 1 minute in a marathon. That's like nothing, is it? So then I realized that I couldn't do any more on my own. I was, you know, training myself kind of half-heartedly, not doing very many series. And that's when I realized I need to join a club. I need to, you know, have some sort of structure to all of this. With structure, I know I can get under 3:45 and then get into London Marathon. And that's when I started searching for a running club. And the only club around the area was a triathlon club. And then, you know, I was doing ultra marathons as well, and all that sort of thing. You know, marathon above is definitely my favorite thing. And the president of our, you know, Tetuan Triathlon Club got wind of all these crazy long distances that I do, and he said, "Why do you want to come to Lanzarote Ironman with us? There's 3 of us going. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Where do I sign up? I don't have a bike, but where do I sign up?" And the rest literally is history. I've not looked back since. So there we go.
So good.
Yeah.
So you think that structure really helped you, and having someone kind of telling you, right, today is going to be this, tomorrow is going to be that, to kind of go off and get it done?
Definitely. I think it was more the structure within the sessions is what I personally was needing in my running, because it is true, when you run on your own, you kind of half push yourself, but you might not necessarily push yourself as much as if you've got somebody in front of you running just that little bit faster, and you think, oh, I've got to try and keep up. Or they just, in a group, you kind of push yourself a bit more, I feel.
Definitely. But what was the kind of driving motivation behind this? Why do you continue to kind of push the limits as to what you can achieve? Is it purely an enjoyment thing? Is it to see, you know, how far you can take this? Is it, you know, being part of a club and doing that together? What's the kind of driving force behind this?
I think it's a bit of a mixture. I think being part of a club definitely has a lot of benefits. You know, you make some great friends. I feel like Tetuan Triathlon Club is now my family, you know, my family, non-blood family. And it's just a great atmosphere, and I think that definitely helps. And then on a kind of personal front, I just love a good challenge. I feel the human in itself, any human, is definitely more capable than what they think. I think we're all capable of much more than everyone thinks they are capable of doing. And I just love testing those limits, you know, within reason, of course, never going beyond that and ended up having a heart attack, you know, 200 meters from a finish line or anything. It's very important to know your limits, but to kind of push them that little bit more every time, for sure.
Yeah. No, love it. Love it. And so all of a sudden, you'd gone from marathons,
Yeah,
you joined a club,
joined the club.
and they've kind of all of a sudden you bought a bicycle
Yeah,
and you've gotten into this.
yeah.
And then suddenly, you know, you're representing Team GB.
Yeah, it was actually
How did that come about?
So it was actually a friend back in the UK that mentioned this whole, you know, age group, Team GB, represent the country and all of this. And it was after I'd finished my first Ironman. So my first ever Ironman was Lanzarote.
Which is one of the hardest Ironmans in Europe.
I can confirm it is one of the, yeah, definitely. The Amsterdam is pretty up there, I have to say, with the wind for someone so short as myself. It's not for
This
everyone.
is the ultimate combo of wind, you're going up volcanoes,
yeah,
and it's pretty warm.
It was actually very warm. Yeah, I remember there was one stretch. It was just a straight, you know, highway, motorway, and it was just, there was no wind. It must have been a tailwind or something, and it just felt like a sauna. I felt like I was in a sauna. It was pretty hardcore. Yeah, definitely worth doing. You see the whole island in, you know, 8 hours if you know, kind of my pace. You get the whole island in one go, you know. But it's a tough one. Definitely worth it though. Definitely worth it. So yeah, I did Lanzarote, and my friend back in the UK mentioned this whole age group thing. I was like, oh, we'll just have a look, see what it's all about. And the time I did in Lanzarote was good enough to kind of present myself and be selected for the team.
To qualify.
To represent Team GB in the age group team. And I thought, you know what, why not? Let's give it a go. Got nothing to lose. An extra Ironman under my belt. And the first one I did was Roth, actually, in Germany. Another quite, you know, famous one in the long distance triathlon world. You know, organised by the Ironman competition, the competitor challenge. Another very highly recommended one. I would definitely recommend that one too. Yeah, it was quite a small, I think there was quite a small amount of people at Roth Germany, because it was last year in 2021 when COVID was still a thing. And I think there was about 12 people in my category. Best, you know, time I've ever done in sort of long distances. Had the best marathon ever, not ever, including in terms of triathlons anyway, not marathons on their own, and just had a great time. And then, you know, with that time I managed to qualify again, and it's just kind of a continuous circle really of doing a long distance qualifying for Team GB. And it's
hooked
great
now. That's it.
100% hooked. Yeah. And it's just great because you go abroad. It's kind of like you compete, but you're abroad, so it's a bit of a holiday. You know, you meet like-minded British people as well, like-minded foreign people as well. But you know, lots of like-minded British people. There's a big British crowd out there on the international age group front, and it's just good fun. It's just great fun. So yeah.
So good, so good. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves with this Guinness World Record.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I just can't get my head around. How did you know, I mean, this is all about trying to convince people, as you said earlier, that we're capable of so much more, and how you define your possible is simply up to you.
Definitely. 100%.
But if you said to me, yeah, you're going to dress up like that, you've got to wear those on your feet, and then you've got to run a marathon.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really stretching the boundary of my kind of possible mental barrier there.
Yeah.
So what was the official world record here? This was
So the world record was the fastest marathon dressed in traditional Spanish dress.
featuring, which includes high heels.
Yeah, it does include also the traditional shoes, which I didn't know at the time. I have to say, the whole thing snowballed like no other snowball has ever formed. I thought it was going to be an easy one, and being within my within my boundaries, within my limits, very controllable. I thought it was going to be a walk in the park. And then it was quite a different story, and it was definitely even pushing my own boundaries quite a lot.
So Spanish dress, typical
traditional
Spanish
dress. Yeah. So
walk us through what that is.
So in Spain, you've got all the different regions, and they're all quite different. And within every region, they have their own sort of traditional kind of dress, but from back in the day, shall we say. And obviously, the most known kind of traditional dress outside of Spain is the flamenco dress, the Sevillanas, they call them, or from the south of Spain, the flamenco dancer.
There's a fair amount of material in those.
There is a fair amount of material in those.
They're not small.
They're not, no, but I was a bit cheeky, and I did go in a kind of foreign-made Chinese version. Didn't go in the proper, Spanish-made.
They're not cheap either, so I'm not surprised, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking more. I was planning on going on in an actual, Spanish handmade proper flamenco dress, but it was just the whole way you have your legs is just too small. I would have not been able to get around quick enough, because my legs wouldn't have been able to move quick enough, So I did go for a stretchy version, I have to say. And I thought it would be a walk in the park. I managed to finally get this London Marathon bib finally, after all these times in the ballot. I think it took me about 12 years. So I was determined.
12 years?
Yeah, so the same year that I managed to get a good for age time. So I went back to Valencia Marathon after all this training, managed to do 3 hours 25. So I was well under, ready and raring. And the same year
That's a solid time.
I was quite proud of myself, I have to say. But the same year I get a ballot place as well. So I was like, really, is this actually happening? The one year I actually managed to work for it, I actually get it through the ballot. So I was like, right, I've got to really take advantage of this now. Who knows when the next time's going to be, because this ballot is just insane now. Marathons have got a lot more popular, and when I first started in the ballot, it was a lot easier than it is nowadays. And so that's why I was like, I'm going to have to go in fancy dress, because everyone in London kind of goes in fancy dress and raises money for a charity. And seeing as I'd already run about 8 marathons, I thought I'm going to have to do a really big fancy dress, like something. Like, we're not talking just a headpiece or something. We're going to go the full works, makeup, hair, the hair accessories, the bangles and everything. And then I was like, why don't we just go for a Guinness record as well? So I was looking at Guinness records, which ones are kind of easy-ish to do, ones that I'm not going to just completely fail. And I saw this traditional Spanish dress one, and I thought, well, seeing as I actually live in Spain, I thought it's perfect. It's kind of combining my two worlds together, And I'd seen that no one had actually set a time yet. So in Guinness World Records, in marathons and these fancy dress marathons, if no one's actually even done this record before, they actually set a time for you to do. So it was 3 hours 45 minutes. I thought, stretchy flamenco dress, 3 hours 45, 4 hours 45, sorry, 4 hours 45. 4:45. I thought, I've got this in the bag, no problems.
Which for many people is a very solid time.
It's a very solid time.
Let's not forget that.
You do have, it's the kind of time where you have to train for, it's not just turn up on the day and see what happens kind of thing. And I thought that I've got this in the bag. 4:45, I've been training strong. This was for the 2020. I thought, I've got this. I sent all my stuff to Guinness World Records. You have to get your costume approved and all of this. And I got the response back, and they were like, yes, thank you. We accept your attempt. Here are the specific rules for this record. And in these specific rules was you have to wear the traditional shoes that go with the dress that you're wearing. I was like, oh no. And everyone was like, are you actually going to do this? They're like, no, surely you're not. That's just ridiculous. I was like, I've told everyone. I've told literally everyone. I'm running a marathon for the Red Cross, and I'm going to do it as a flamenco dance. I was like, there was no way of getting out of it. You know, it's one of those
You're in
things
too
I
deep
could
at
have.
that point.
Yeah, I was in too deep, and I kind of, you know, I didn't want to not let anyone down or anything, but you know, I kind of put it out there, and I kind of wanted to meet that, you know, meet that objective that I'd kind of set for myself, and that everyone else knew that I had. So I was like, well, that's that then. We're going to have to start training in these shoes. And that's exactly what I did. I went out and got my cheap flamenco dress with stretchy material and got some shoes, and started trying to, like, you know, tune them up and pimp them and to try and make them a little bit more comfy, if that's even possible.
I mean, there's not a huge amount you can do to them. It's not as if you can switch out the laces for elastic.
No, yeah, no. I mean, they already came with elastic, so I didn't have to worry about laces. So a good friend of ours, Danny de la Cruz, gave me some old running shoe insoles for me to put
Shout
in
out,
there.
Danny.
Yeah, shout out to Danny. Thank you, Danny, for your insoles. And just a lot of training, you know, to get used to the.
So you were training in these shoes?
I was, yeah, and I was actually doing very well. So this was going to be the 2020 London Marathon. Okay. And I had no other, you know, races, any other plans. So I was just completely focused on this marathon. And I was going out at about 6 o'clock in the morning with the shoes on or with the dress on. It depends, you know, if it was raining.
Was out of just like pure embarrassment.
Yeah, I was a bit embarrassed. Because, you know, if it was London, then everyone would understand, oh, she's running the London Marathon this year, you know. But in Spain, fancy dress and running just isn't, it's not a thing, is it? It's not done.
It's not that widespread, no.
It's not widespread at all. So I was going out in the morning, and then there was this kind of race on the main street in Madrid, on the Castellana, and it was a fancy dress race, you know, for Carnival and all of this. And I thought, great, this is going to be my practice run. They cancelled it. It wasn't even for COVID. They cancelled it. This was just before COVID started, so I was like, you know, really gutted.
That was your tune-up.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to look weird because different because everyone else was going to be dressed up as well. You know, I'd even got a friend in on it as well, and she was going to come with me dressed up in I don't know what. And they cancelled it, so I was like, I'm going to have to do another race now because I've got to, you know, do a race dressed like this, you know, because it's a long way to go without practicing, you know. And they say, don't they, you can't wear anything new on race day. So I signed up to the university race here in Madrid and did my 7K. I was the only one dressed up. I definitely turned heads, had the shoes on and everything. And, you know, I even made the local news that day. So there we go, Harry. That was quite an experience. My poor friend that still came with me and just stood there next to me and ran with me. It was just shout out to Emma, because thank you very much for her support on that day, because I did feel very out of place, obviously, you know, being the only one dressed up on that university race. So yeah, and then COVID hit, so then I had to kind of, all that training in the shoes was for nothing for about a year and a half. Unfortunately, I was doing really well with the shoes. That sounds very strange, but I was doing really well.
It was strict over here.
Yeah,
you couldn't get any exercise at all. There was none of this, like back in the UK, you know, your hours exercise a day, which no one was enforcing, so you could go out and do as much exercise you want.
Yeah,
like we can do anything over here.
We were locked up,
so all of that training suddenly, the aerobic base is going downhill by this point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've all got a home train, haven't we, for our bikes? But I think it got a bit boring after about 10 days. I don't know for you, but for me, after 10 days, I was like, nah, that's it. I'm not doing any more home training on the bikes. It just got too monotonous, didn't it? So then we all basically had to start from zero here, didn't we? With any kind of aerobic, you know, stability or anything. It was quite a shock to the system, I think, when we were allowed out. I mean, just walking to work, which is like 2 kilometers, and ended up with, you know, muscle ache. So it was quite sad.
I remember buying 1 packet of carrots at a time, because we were allowed to go to the supermarket.
Yeah.
And so I didn't go to the supermarket that was closest. I went to the supermarket that was half an hour walk away and buy 1 thing, so I could go back again in the evening and buy another thing. Going absolutely insane inside.
Yeah, it was pretty tough, wasn't it?
I saw a video of you doing laps of your flat in full kit.
Yes, just a few though, just to kind of try and, you know, keep some
legs,
sort of at least my feet didn't get, you know, soft and baby like again. You know, we've got to keep those hard skins going. But that also didn't last very long either. You know, I wasn't doing horrendous, you know, we didn't even make 5k. I mean, we didn't even make 2k. I mean, it was just a bit ridiculous. And until we were allowed properly out, because, you know, when we were first allowed out, we weren't even allowed to go that far. So it kind of took us a while to be able to get out and train properly. But then when, you know, we were all allowed back out and things again, it was, you know, I had the marathon in October 2021. And I had my first European long distance triathlon 4 weeks before that. So the timing wasn't great. It meant I was concentrating more on obviously the Europeans and not running in these ridiculous shoes. And so I had a month to kind of recover from the European long distance and kind of train in these shoes. And the second time around, it didn't go as well because I didn't have enough. It was just a lack of time, really. So I just had to turn up on race day with a bit of training. I was wearing the shoes 24/7. You know, I was in the flat and I was walking around in them. I had my pajamas on and I had the shoes on at the same time, sort of things. Just try and get as much time in these shoes as I possibly could. You know, to kind of break the shoes in again, but also kind of break my feet in again. You know, everyone knows that feeling of new shoes and being a bit uncomfortable. So I was having to go through that feeling again. You know, so
the blisters. I mean, I don't even want to think about it. The first time I did a marathon, I lost 5 toenails, and that was just in a standard pair of running shoes.
Yeah.
So, like, the state.
They were pretty bad
after that.
They were terrible. I mean, I did my last long run before the marathon, I think was 16 kilometers. And I did have to stop early, but I was hoping to get to about 20 at least, just for mental peace of mind, you know, that I could do it, because I was, up until race day, I was very nervous. I think maybe I've bitten off too much, you know, I've bitten more than I can chew, I think, here. So, and I didn't know until race day whether I was going to make it or not. It was definitely you know, am I going to make it?
Not to mention, you know, an Ironman 4 weeks before takes it out of you.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I was very grateful that I'd kind of done the training for the distance, at least. You know, I was literally only having to train for what I was going to wear, which just sounds absolutely crazy, doesn't it? And just trying to kind of, you know, put in those positive messages inside, you know, within me, and be like, yes, you can do this, you can do this. And, you know, shout out to all my very close family and friends who were like, come on, Charlotte, you can do anything. You've done all these other crazy things. Why not this one as well? You know, you've got this, you've definitely got it. And I was like, I don't know if I have, but yeah, of course, yeah, cool. Please sponsor me in the Red Cross, you know, dig deep, please. And yeah, this last 16k run, my feet were pretty, you know, mangled up. So I kind of went on marathon day still with a few sores from that last run. But the good thing is I knew where they were going to rub. So, you know, I did get something out of that run. So I knew exactly, I take them up as much as I could, just to kind of give that extra, you know, room for rubbage, and just hoped for the best, really. Just prayed that I would make it to the finish line in under 4 hours 45, you know, even if it was 4 hours 44, I just wanted to make it. And it's definitely when mental strength comes in, for sure, in these sorts of things, you know, when you push your boundaries that bit too much. And you know, it's kind of, you know, the goal is there, you can see that, you know, that finish line, or, you know, the top of the goal, and you just got to keep pushing yourself to get it there, and just have faith in yourself. And that's exactly what I did, because I think it was about kilometer 18. I was not having a good time. I had a friend there cheering me on around that point, kilometer 18, 19, I think it was. And after the marathon, she said, you did look like you were having a bad time. And I was like, thanks for that. I was. thanks for confirming that. And then it got to a point where the pain didn't get any worse. It was kind of just a change in chip, and just managing this kind of pain, and just keep going. You know, you can deal with this pain. It's not an issue. You know, it's not going to be forever. And with any race that I do that's kind of tough or maybe long, maybe the issue is the distance here, because there's a lot of hours. You know, you've got to keep yourself going, keep yourself motivated. I do always say to myself, you know, if you really don't like it after this one that much, you never have to run again. Once you've crossed that finish line, you can stop doing it if you don't find it fun anymore, and all of that. And I just keep going. So I clearly still think it's very fun.
It's a good way to deal with it. It's a good
Yeah,
way to deal with it. So you're, you can quit after this one, but we're going to finish this one.
that's it.
After that, we'll see.
We'll decide whether we continue
Yeah.
or not, for sure. And, when you've really got to dig deep, you don't want to carry on, just make it to the finish line, and then we'll see. Just forget about times, forget about anything. Just try and enjoy the moment, and we'll speak about it when we get to the finish line. We'll have that in a conversation at some point after over a beer.
And you made it.
I did make it, yes. It got to a point where I knew that even if I started to walk, I'd make it. So yeah, I mean, the crowds definitely helped. I think, again, I did turn quite a few heads, not because of the top half, it was the shoes, because they do a lot of klimping and klopping as well. That's what they're kind of designed for, aren't they, really, for the flamenco
Sure.
dancing and stuff. So I definitely got a lot of cheering, and that definitely helped me to to keep going and not stop. I didn't stop to run at any point either. I don't know how I did that. I did have a loo break, actually. That is a lie. I did stop to go to the loo, which is quite a tough one. I had to have all those layers of dress on and in a portal loo. It was quite a tricky one.
That's a logistical effort.
It was quite a logistical one, and that was that I didn't have a proper flamenco dress on. Thank goodness for that. But I'd managed to run the whole thing basically, so that was quite a feat in itself. Quite proud of that. And yeah, we made it 4 hours 26 minutes. So what's that about? Can't do the maths there. 19 minutes under the record time, and felt amazing. And I thought, it kind of proves that the human being is possible of doing literally anything they do put their mind to. If you want something that much, you definitely can get. If you really do want it, you will make it, or you will do it. For sure, you can reach any objective, any goal in life, for sure, not just in sport, in everything. 100%. So yeah,
I mean, incredible accomplishment. Absolutely
incredible. Thank you, Harry. Thank you very much.
I mean, even though you've done it and showed it's possible,
yeah,
I'm still not sure I back myself to to give that one a crack.
I mean, the male one is still up for grabs, so I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
A bullfighter is quite a lot easier. It's not the most comfy of shoe, but it's a lot easier.
They've got their little plimsolls, don't they? They don't have any heels at all.
Oh, do they not? I didn't even know that.
No,
there you go.
Like a flat little.
Yeah.
And those trousers are pretty tight. I'm not sure. I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, you'd be getting some serious blisters, but the chafing from those trousers, I mean, I don't even want to think about it, frankly.
Probably not worth thinking about.
I think I'll take the heels.
I mean, I could have chosen an easier dress, but I think it was the whole, outside of Spain, I wanted something very recognizable, easily recognizable for, the British public that was going to be, cheering everyone on at the marathon, or even my own family. No one, we've got the chulapa here in Madrid. I love the chulapa, and I feel very like madrileña, because that's where I've only ever lived in Spain, but no one knows what a chulapa is outside of Spain, so that's why I went for the flamenco, and that's when it all just snowballed. Very beautiful dress there, I have to say.
Unreal. And so now what's next?
So next will be the World. So I've got the World long distance in May. That's in Ibiza. I've just got confirmation, I think it was last week, of being selected for that. So that's quite exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Harry. It's a long distance, but it's not long. It's not Ironman distance, shall we call it. It's like 3K swim, 119 on the bike, and 29.5 run, which is quite a random distance.
Interesting. Bit of a curveball there.
Yeah, quite a curveball, but so I'm quite excited to try this new distance. So it's long, but not that long. You can have a bit of a social life as well as a sport life and a work life, and you can balance them out a bit easier. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a long day. Let's not forget that.
It's definitely still a long day, but it's just not as long,
Very true. Very true.
Yes.
And so, finally, what kind of advice would you give to someone who is looking to get into sport in some kind of way, or even into triathlon, and they just don't really know where to start? And what do you think is the best way that they could go about that? Do you think it's perhaps find your local club? You mentioned that was been really important for you in kind of bringing it all together.
Yeah, I mean, if you can join a club, if you do have a club in your town, city, or you've got the means to join a club, I would really definitely recommend it. I think, especially when you're starting out, if it's something very new, especially a triathlon, in the running world, it's maybe a lot easier because you just find the right shoes, and in the shops they help you with that, and the streets are free. You can just go out there and run. But for a triathlon, there's a lot of different things. You've got 3 sports you have to look after when you do a triathlon and think about, and they're all very different. And I think a club definitely does help you to, you're mingling with people who've been doing it for years. I hadn't done a triathlon before. I'd even joined the triathlon club, and I didn't even imagine doing triathlons when I joined them. I just joined them to do the running part. But it's definitely worth it. If not, just start small, I think is definitely the thing. Start small, see if you like it, and then just build little by little on that. Set your sights on achievable goals, and then the big goals, the big objectives can come later. There's always time for the big wacky crazy things in life. Definitely start small, and because if you go too overboard, then you might get a bit overwhelmed with it, or shall we say, and if you can't swim very well, then you might start getting a bit stressed and then not like it anymore because it's just too much to take in at a time. So start small and then grow on that is what I would say.
100%. I think one thing that you mentioned there, getting kind of overwhelmed by the whole thing as well, and certainly I noticed, big fan of the Strava, and comparing yourself to other people is not the way to do it.
No,
suddenly if you're not hitting the numbers that you want to be hitting, you can get frustrated with yourself, and then it's just not fun.
No, it's not.
So if you're not having fun, you're not going to keep doing it.
No, definitely. I mean, a team's there for the team spirit. It's definitely, running and triathlon, I do see them as very individual sports, even if you are a club and a team. And I think your biggest competitor is yourself, and it has to be yourself. You have to improve yourself and your times, and you can't even compare yourself sometimes. It might be raining, you might be having a bad day. You've got to take all of this into account, and
definitely,
and just go with the flow. And it doesn't matter if you have a bad day, there's always hundreds of other days to come after that one. So definitely,
for sure. Charlotte, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. No, thank you for having me. Thank you.
And much look forward to get out on the bike sometime soon together.
Yes, definitely, for sure. Thanks a lot.
Until then.
Bye.
Bye.
Great to talk to Charlotte and hear her journey in sport. More to come next week. Please let us know of any other physical specimens you'd like to hear from by sending us a message on Instagram or commenting on any of our posts. Finally, we'd really appreciate your support by subscribing and rating this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps share the message behind this project to more people. Until next time.